Hello, hello. I'm Lacey, and this is Mary. And we are Lacey and Mary, teamaquarius.com. Look us up. I'm going to start sharing my
Astrology
screen.
nerds.
Astrology nerds. All right. So this is the first screen. So I had been looking up a study in like the correlation between the planet Pluto, or Pluto as an object in the sky, even if we don't talk about Pluto, right? Like as a planet or not a planet, it doesn't matter. It's a thing in a chart. And I want to talk about what that thing means and why I thought I had a hunch, I had a theory that Pluto has something to do with deep connections, right? Deep relationship connections. Right. That was my thought.
Because Pluto's intensity, right?
Yeah. I'll get into like the definitions of it, but this is kind of a follow-up to a question I asked in a group called I think it's called the Twin Flame Universe Open Forum. And I was just wondering how many people who were going through that journey, that experience, had Pluto in Libra, and I'll get into why. So this picture here is fun. This is Hades. This is Persephone, right? Because when we're talking about Pluto, we're talking about, the Roman name Pluto, Hades, the Greek name, god of the underworld. This is a webtoon comic that I read that I totally loved and adored, and the art is by Rachel Smythe's popular webtoon comic. So webtoon's an app, and it's Lore Olympus. And so I like the way Hades is portrayed in this, as sort of like this businessman who's making, contracts, and then Persephone, and how they get together, and it's less rapey than like the OG story, and then this is the dog Cerberus, so who guards, the gates of Hades. It was my opening page. Pluto. Read this web comic.
Pluto.
It's adorable. Oh. Okay, sorry, went to the next thing. All right, Pluto in the astrological chart. So Pluto is the furthest planet in our solar system. Therefore, it is the longest orbit around our sun. As a result of such a long transit around our sun, Pluto is a generational planet, meaning it takes around 12 to 18 years to move through each sign. Pluto is named after the Roman god of the underworld. And its themes have to do with death and rebirth and deep transformation, where we must change or die, right? It's where we're called to evolve. It's where we grapple with control issues, obsessive thoughts, loyalty, extremes, and the places of ourselves we would rather hide or bury. It's where we feel sort of vulnerable. It's where we feel like I don't want to call out, because Pluto is also in the astrology world. In modern astrology, is one of the rulers of Scorpio, and then some say Pisces because it has to do with endings and spiritual. And then Pluto, right, in the 8th house has to do with death and rebirth, right? But yeah, Pluto is one of those things that we're still defining today, right? We're still trying to make sense of what it even is in a chart. But it has to do with deeply felt experiences, right? Oh, it's kind of a roller coaster ride sometimes. And it's kind of, I feel like we can choose to either, change or die. That's what I always think about, right?
Yeah, I've heard you say that a lot, and I think it's perfect for Pluto.
Yes, and like extremes. And so it deals with generations, right? So there's like sort of the Gen Z. We'll get into that. I'll go to the next slide. So Pluto and Libra. I have Beyonce here. She has so much Libra in her chart, which is kind of why I used her. But the Pluto in Libra generation was born from November 1971 to November 1983. It's not that like, the one that came before this was Pluto and Virgo, Pluto and Leo, right? I was just trying to look for the most recent people who are maybe still
recent history. Yeah.
So it's not that they don't, or that, generations before this didn't experience deep heartfelt connections in some strange way. It's just, this is what I was covering. But Pluto in Libra, this generation has major themes around balance, justice, fairness, relationships, partnerships and marriages, right? It's the scales of balance, right? So we in the Pluto generation, right? In this year, we have extremes, we have polarizations, right? We're like Republican, Democrat, right? We're like, so we have extremes, right? It's
Polarity.
polarization. And we're trying to, as this generation, we're trying to figure out a way to balance those scales, not be one or the other, but until you sort of learn to accept that your partners, it will always be out of balance. Or maybe the extremes make the balance. And then do you want those balances? Anyway, Libra kind of goes all the time. But Libra loves and it is notorious for wanting to be in partnerships, right? Libra as a sun sign, right? Libra as a rising sign. Libra as a moon sign. They crave partnerships. They crave not being alone, right? They want it. Does that make right?
Yeah, I definitely think that there's a big connection when you say Libra. You kind of think, I don't know, like, yeah, just like a lover of fairy tales or hopeless romantic, right? Like that is kind of a Libra thing. Doesn't mean that they don't care about things like justice and balance and harmony and art, right? Because it's still
Right.
Venusian. But that's kind of the whole thing, though. Venus, you know what I mean?
Venus.
Attraction, connecting.
Right.
You just don't feel, I mean, it's two scales, right? So it
Yeah.
almost feels like until they find their other, there's no
Yeah.
balance, you
Right.
know, and like,
Yeah.
right. And so I think that kind of plays into the twin flame topic too,
I think so
specifically with
too.
Libra. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever had, so you have a Pluto in Scorpio, Mary.
That's
I have
me.
Pluto in
Yeah.
Libra. And so I put in Pluto and Scorpio. This generation has major themes around the occult, the dark sides of humanity, murder podcasts, right?
Murder
Serial
porn.
killer shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scorpio is also very ambitious. It's a very ambitious sign. It's a sign of deep feelings. It's a sign of the Scorpion. So if it is going to come out, it's coming out guarded because it doesn't want to give you power over them, right? I need to know I have a say in what is exposed and not exposed, right? And it rules the genitals. So, sex is a major theme with Pluto in
Mhm.
Scorpio, right?
Yeah, like
Pluto and Virgo was, yeah.
the intimacy too, right? The connecting,
Right.
the merging, right? We talked about that with the eighth house. That's Scorpio, right? That's Scorpio thing, where it's not like sex for fun like Leo. It is like a merging of souls, kind of a seriousness with Scorpio.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, so yeah, clearly more generational planets, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
More generational. Taylor Swift, Pluto and Scorpio. We know that she says a lot about relationships and the intensity of relationships, right? Beyonce sings about, I'm doing my part. Are you doing your part? Can you pay my bill? Can you
oh
right?
yeah, yeah.
Right. Taylor Swift is like, you hurt me so bad and I obsess over it. Obsess over you, right? A little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we all of us in the Scorpio generation are like, we feel it. It fucking hurts.
It
Tell us
fucking hurts.
more.
Deep throat, right?
Yeah.
Tell us more. I love it. Unafraid
Right.
to know more, experience more. It's just, I'm not
Go
going to talk about
deeper.
it.
Yeah.
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 And then Pluto and Sagittarius. I picked Billie Eilish because she's young. She's also a Sag sun. But yeah, Pluto and Sagittarius, these are my children. And they have themes of playfulness, dark humor, truth, philosophy, travel, freedom, spiritual warrior. Sagittarius has to do, they love to learn, right? They love to educate themselves. And my kids are always learning stuff on YouTube, right? Always. And then they're looking for the truth too. They're looking for what is true. And so it's interesting, seeing that process. And then also, this is the generation, this one in Capricorn, oddly enough, is generation where COVID was a major thing. So, traveling, education, make goals. You better learn how to fucking make goals for Pluto Capricorn, right? So,
Right.
Anyway, those are my thoughts.
Sternness, right?
Yes. So this just covers Pluto. This covers Pluto in these generations, which is kind of where people are right now when they're sort of in relationships. That's not to say that Pluto people after or before don't. This is just what I was thinking about and covering for this
Yeah,
talk.
this came about because you asked in a group
Yes.
exactly the correlation between
Right.
if because we think of Libra as a relationship sign.
Right.
If your Pluto is located
Right.
in Libra, do you
Right.
experience a crisis around relationships? And like you specifically were focusing on twin flame, right? And so hence
Right.
this whole conversation, which I think is really I think it's a perfect topic. Like I like that
Yeah.
it's detailed and specific, right? But it's still kind of a broad group of
Mhm.
people that would be impacted.
Yeah, because I know that I myself have had relationship experiences that impacted me hugely, right?
Mhm.
Sort of the twin flame journey myself. We may have different definitions about it. I think I'll talk about this in another chat and another time. Um, but I know that I've experienced. Have you ever experienced as a Pluto in Scorpio? Have you ever experienced something that was like a holy shit? What the fuck is up with this?
Scorpio in my first house makes everything feel like that, right? Like
Yeah.
I always it's very Scorpion like, right? I feel things so deeply, but then I don't show the other person that, right? So I'm like low key obsessed and I'm loyal and I'm like, intense about relationships, but I won't like show that,
Right.
right? I like to keep my cool and my distance. In my
Mhm.
mind, everything is like, whoa, kind of, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody with a Pluto and Scorpio feels that way, or if it's just because it's in my first
My
house.
first
But
house. So it's like readily you
right. So
seen.
I take
Yeah.
I take relationships with other people like super seriously, right?
Yeah.
But I won't that doesn't necessarily mean I show it,
Mhm.
like that would be vulnerable, like vulnerability is difficult, right?
Yeah. Pluto does not
So
like to be exposed until it
right,
is ready, right? Scorpio does not like to be
right.
exposed until it
It's
is ready.
yeah, it's fixed, right? It's like
Right.
I know what I like. No thanks.
No,
Stay in the dark.
right. So I asked this question in this open forum because I was wondering, is the coined term twin flame experience correlated to Pluto, and in particular Pluto in Libra, because it is the sign of relationships,
Right.
very, very strong that. And my findings were these. So findings from the Twin Flames Universe Open Forum. This is a Facebook group. Ranked from people. So this is ranked from people who had the most Pluto placements in each house. And then I'm using the whole sign house system. And I put that in there because some of these might be different depending upon if you're in Placidus or whole sign. There's a couple of things that I would do differently now, right? If I were really trying to science this shit up. But like I asked, I think the way I worded it is how many of you here have, actually I'll look up the question really quick on here. The question that I asked. Boom. I have to like find it first. Well, where was the last thing that somebody had put on here? Sorry, I should have put this up, but whatevs. Okay, I put, hi, I study twin flame, soulmate, karmic connections in astrology. I'm curious as to how many people have Pluto in Libra. And if you know the house your Pluto is it placed in, like question mark, please share that with me. But my Pluto's in Libra, 7th house. Thanks for taking the time is what I put, right? So if I were to ask this now, I would say, where's your Pluto? Instead of, is your Pluto in Libra? Then people who have Pluto and Libra are like, oh shit, me.
Right.
So then it kind of singles in there rather than maybe more people would have said, I have Pluto and Scorpio, or more people would have been like,
Right.
I have Pluto and Sag. So I have to preface it with that. I would do these things a little bit differently now. But I had 38 people Pluto placements reported. Some people were like, I have Pluto in the fourth house, right? And then some people be like, I have Pluto in the fourth, my twin flame has it in the fifth, right? So some people gave me their
Right.
persons, you know. So I kind of
I
just put
love
those.
that. I love that it was like, I
Yeah.
love that astrology is commonplace enough for like people to throw houses into like a comment. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Makes me
There were
so happy that it's a widely used language now
yes,
where you
yeah.
can ask something like that and people can be so specific and you're like, thank you, you know?
Right. And I thought that it would be, I expected more. It's funny. I had in my head like, oh fuck, everybody's gonna you know, chime in and be like, I have Pluto seventh house, I have Pluto seventh house, right? Because wherever Pluto then is placed, if you have Pluto in Libra, it's extremes in relationships, it's trying to find balance in relationships, it's a crisis maybe in relationships, right? And then I expected more people when they put in the houses to be in the relationship houses. So I have this wheel here, and this wheel is from astrostyle.com. If you want to look it up, I just did a screen grab. So this is the first house here, and the first house deals with self, appearances, first impressions, beginnings, your attitude, right? So this is like ages, you know, 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 3 to 4. It's life, basically, going through the houses. And so I expected the relationship houses, which is like the fifth house, the eighth house, seventh house. I expected more of these to be enacted somehow, right? More
Right.
people to be like, I have fifth house, I have seventh house, I have eighth house, right? Majority of people wrote in that they have Pluto, third house, 7. So what I did was I put the number in here,
Oh, gotcha.
regardless of if it was Pluto. This is just for the houses, right? So this is the sign of Libra. So 31 of the 38 people had placements in Libra, right? Who are on this forum, who answered this thing. And again, I would ask a question differently so that maybe less people would see Pluto and Libra and
Oh
they
yeah,
chime
I'd be
in.
interested to do a poll. Like if
Yeah,
it would
me
let you
too.
do a poll and just like where you answer it and then we could get like, but
Yes.
anyway, this was yeah, specifically kind of a pointed
I
question, which is okay. I think it was kind of a, I like that you shared your assumptions, right?
yes,
You're like,
I
okay, I know a certain amount of people are gonna have Pluto and Libra, but I'm guessing in
yeah,
relationship houses, right?
right, right.
And then what ended up happening is yes, a lot of people
Pluto
have
and Libra. Mhm.
yes, but the
Yeah,
most houses are
right.
third and fourth.
Our third and fourth. And then I also note that in the sign of Scorpio, the total of 9, most of these people, this is their twin flame. They would say, my Pluto is in Scorpio, my twin flames is in Libra. So even these here are connected to Libra. And then this one here is connected to Pluto. They were like, I have my Pluto in Sag, my twin flame has it in Scorpio, right? So even there's still even more Pluto and Libra is what I'm saying. Anyway,
Right. Right.
so seventh house of communication, siblings, friends, neighbors, and community. This is the house that got answered the most of I have my placement here. And I am going through a twin flame experience. So I thought interesting. So maybe this has to do then with extremes. Maybe there's an extreme balancing in the way they were raised, right? It's, you know, it's the third house of the way we think about things, right? It's Mercury ruled. It's our neighbors, right? The small circles around us. It's our siblings. It's the people who we meet who aren't ourselves first, right? So
Mm-hmm.
first we have ourselves. Second, we have, you know, sort of who we are. What do I have at my disposal? I have my fingers and my toes. I'm a 1-year-old. You're
Right.
2. Now you have parents. You have siblings. You have my neighbors, my cousins, right? There's this self-development going on here. So Pluto in Libra, third house, would be all about balancing what I learned as a child versus what I'm experiencing now, maybe, right? Sort of reconciling those relationships. So it was just interesting to see that. So the twin flame experience for the people here, that means that they would be learning something about their own soul in the area of how I grew up thinking about my environment and myself, right? So if the twin flame experience is all about how you heal yourself, right? It's all about I've been triggered into this relationship that has changed me profoundly. I have had a Pluto experience, right? I've had this significant change. I have this obsessive thoughts. I think about this a lot, whatever, right? These kinds of things, which Pluto's does. So I wondered if maybe some of these people were triggered into how do I evolve from where I was as a young person? Does that make sense? That was kind of like my thoughts,
Yeah, and I see what you're saying, because there's a correlation between like ages and like maturity of the wheel and stuff, right? So what point of
Right.
life that is. But then I'm also thinking like third house is communication and technology. These are people who are answering your question on a forum, right? Like these are people who are probably on the line trying to find answers about their crisis, right? And then the other thing I'm thinking is that, okay, if it's a third house Libra, then they would be a Leo rising, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I thought of it too.
So they would also want to be seen in this forum. They'd be like, I want you to know, right?
So maybe it's less about more majority of twin flames have it in this house, but more about the majority of the people who are experiencing this and can be online, our third house, because that's online.
That's what I was kind of thinking, right? Like this is a great representation of kind of like online. And then because also Gemini, it would be Gemini rising if it was fourth house Libra. Right. So then it would also make sense that they would be using technology and communication to try to understand.
Oh, I love what you just pinpointed there. So then less about the twin flame experience itself and more about the people who have these placements who would be most likely to be online.
I think
in that forum. Okay, brilliant.
Who would be looking for information that way, or like how to help the crisis feeling, right?
Right. Yes. So Gemini rising, that would be the first house. And so you may not understand this, people, if you don't, but hopefully you do. If you know astrology at all, what Mary just said was brilliant and everyone should research it. What's my rising? What does Gemini rising mean? What does Leo rising mean? What does Pluto third house mean? Right? What does Pluto fourth house mean? Now, fifth, right? Okay, so sixth house, that's interesting. These are people who meet people at work, right? That's a workplace sort of environment, that's what I was thinking.
That's where my Eros is.
And it's also Virgo, which is also Mercury ruled, right?
Makes sense.
So also people being down with talking about it in a place, and then what's the rising for that? So that's like Virgo, this would be Pisces. So this would be
but are we talking Libra?
Oh,
right?
Sorry, Libra sixth house. Yeah. I was putting the Virgo overlay because Virgo.
I know. I was like, wait a minute, wait.
Yeah.
Okay, so Libra. So then opposite of that would be Aquarius. So then they would be
Aries, and then the one down Taurus, Taurus rising. Right.
Aquarius, Pisces rising.
Yeah. So like if this were Libra sixth house, right? If I have Libra in the sixth house, then the one directly opposite that would be Aries.
Aquarius.
Yeah. So Aries.
Oh wait, no, Libra, Aries. You're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So
I was thinking Leo and Aquarius for some reason. Okay. Yeah, you're
it's
right.
All right.
Aries.
We're doing
Taurus.
astro math in our head. Yeah.
I know, we're trying to like do the math up here.
So this would be Taurus rising.
Yeah, Taurus rising. If it was sixth house, Libra.
Right. And Taurus is all about what's solid, what's going to last, right? What's physically going to last. And it's Venus ruled itself, and the sixth house is Venus ruled. So anyway, but I was just thinking about like Pluto, maybe they have a crisis of, health, pets. These are people that meet people at sort of pet parks sometimes too. Health, fitness, right? You could meet at the gym, right? Someplace you're pursuing your health, someplace you're taking care of somebody, or day-to-day routines, day-to-day work, right? It has to do with work. Anyway, six people were in here who had this in common, but
Right.
It has a Virgo rulership on it. So again, also
It
Mercury
makes
rule.
sense. Yeah, that like they would be trying to get like obtain more information, whether you do that online or however, right? But like
Right. So
communicate.
the next ones are so we talked about this one, fifth house or fourth house Libra, 5 people. We're like roots, home, family, emotional foundation. Fourth house is another, it's not Taurus, but it's another oh my gosh, my fourth house is Cancer. So it's like a Cancer ruled, right? Home.
Your Libra is your seventh house, right?
So that's why I expected people more twin flame experiences, right?
To
Because I
be
thought,
in right, the relationship houses.
yeah, because I thought seventh house, surely, right? Because that's you're in a committed partnership, you're in a committed relationship. What happens then when you feel a deep connection with somebody else, right? Where you're like, and you're like changed by it, right? What happens there? You have a crisis, is what you have there. You know what I mean? You have, you know,
We talked about Libra being the most like LGBTQ friendly of
right?
the zodiac, right?
Because
So
beauty's in everyone,
part of the reason it's a crisis is because this is like a more monogamous generation culturally,
right?
right?
Hmm.
Like, but if your Pluto is there in Libra, you
Right,
might feel like maybe unconventional, you know what I mean? Like maybe you
hmm,
want more relationships, maybe you want
right,
intense experiences in relationships to the point where one wouldn't kind of be enough,
right. Well,
right?
but Pluto is also loyalty, so it's this interesting thing of I'm extremely loyal, right? Super loyal. Um, but Libra, which is there's beauty in everyone, right? Like that thing you
Right.
just said, right? The and so how can there be, only one person forever, right? Pluto and Scorpio would deal with that a lot, right?
Right.
A lot. It's the next phase up.
Well, death in relationships too. Like I wonder if
Yeah.
there's an evolution of relationships. I
Yes.
mean, yeah,
Mhm.
my mind wanders.
I know. So there's only 2 people though in that 7th house. And I was like, well, that's interesting, you know? But maybe those 2 people, myself included, is I have a lot of Virgo in my chart. So I have a lot that allows me to talk about it, mercurial, right? And to figure it out. Well, let's refine this. What is the thing? And then I have Aquarius sun, so I want to find a system. What the fuck is this system, right? That's how it feels.
Right. And it's funny because your Gemini is in your third house, right? Your Libra
Right.
is in your seventh house, and then Aquarius in the 11th house of communities, which is what this group
Totally is.
is. It's a
Yeah.
twin flame community, right?
Yeah.
So there's a few other reasons besides the fact that Libra is not in your like third or fourth house that I think you're online
Right.
um trying to figure this out,
Community.
because yeah, you're a very mercurial being and
Yeah, I
your
think we've
really supports that.
sort of solved like who's most likely to answer this is kind of what we've come.
More to come, right? We'll just
Yeah,
keep
more to come.
studying people.
Yeah, I have more questions. I'm going to want to know about Chiron and Venus and like ask those questions
Yeah.
next.
Stay tuned.
But yeah, right. Anyway, so I want to know more. I love that we kind of went down more towards who's most likely to, answer this, but not necessarily an indicator of Pluto and Libra. So please do not go, oh my God, what? I have Pluto and Libra and they need to, we're meant to be. That's not what it is. It's just it's a generational thing. And I was just wondering if the Pluto generation is the one who grappled the most with relationships in this way, right? What's the
Well, and I think this, is going to be on YouTube. So put it in the comments, right?
yeah.
Where's your Pluto? What's your experience?
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Right? Like, let's continue
Mhm.
the study. What does it feel like for Pluto to be wherever it is in your chart? Enlighten me,
Yes.
you know?
Right. I expected Pluto to be more in the 5th house of romance play, right? Self-expression. It's also the house of sex for pleasure, for fun, children, games, right? And then 8th house is 4. So that's like makes sense, right? Sex, intimacy, bonding, you know, shared resources merging. I expected honestly more Plutos in Libra in the 4th, the 5th, the 7th houses. I expected more. So it's kind of pleasantly surprised to be like, oh shit. And then pleasantly surprised to go, oh, it's not exclusive to this. And you know, this sign or whatever. It's just, you know, I didn't hear about it until a few years back. And then it was like, is that because of, anyway, you just have all these theories that pop off in your head. But yes, we want to know, where is your Pluto? If you have your own theories about this, right? You have your own thoughts, or you're like, oh, I know how to do this study better. Just credit Lacey and Mary. I sprung off the board of Lacey and Mary's chat on, you know, a study in the correlation between twin flame and Pluto, right? That'd be awesome. But please, you take this run with us, tell us your theories too. It's super fun. I could nerd out all day, and I'm not done looking into this because I think it's something that should be talked about a lot more, and a lot more people should feel less alone or less isolated, less fucked up about it, right, in the head, because that's what it tends to do. That's what it did for me. So
it could be isolating, right? So like what you're saying is like, let's make it a conversation.
Let's make it a conversation. All
Tell
right,
us in the comments.
in the comments. So this is